Shut up and sit down.
Happy New Year from us here at No One Asked Us. This is the first show of 2022. Holy cow. What a year. What a year. I'm Logan Lee. He's Craig Choate. This is No One Asked Us, episode 48 of the show, quickly approaching our milestone of a full year. That's coming up pretty quickly. Craig, do you know what date the show started?
It was the last week of February. I don't know the exact date, but
I don't even remember that. But yeah, we're quickly approaching that, so that's pretty exciting. We'll have to come up with something to celebrate that. Don't forget to give us a follow on all of our social media, at No One Asked Us Pod on Twitter, at Craig W. Choate, at the Logan Lee, and you can send us an email at nooneaskedus2021@gmail.com. As always, chapter markings are in the description. If you're looking to bounce around and listen to us talk about something and not the other, feel free to utilize that. Craig,
February
Happy New
22nd.
Year. February 22nd was our very first show. Wow. Okay. Well, we are less than 2 months away from that. So that's exciting stuff. I know Craig is working very hard to plan our year old anniversary episode. Yeah, who knows? Craig, Happy New Year. How did you celebrate? I saw you were in the chair with the dogs. Did you do anything exciting for New Year's? Did you go to Minnesota to watch hockey? Did you do anything?
Absolutely nothing. I was on the couch with two dogs at the stroke
By
of
yourself?
midnight. By myself. Yes.
Okay. Did you kiss your dogs at midnight?
No.
What a shame.
Christy's I guess not whole family. Her mom and dad didn't go, but her brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews all went down to Atlanta. And our dog sitter backed out. We couldn't find a replacement. So I stayed home with the dogs and rang in the new year with them on the couch, being crazy like they both are. So yeah, it was pretty chill. Although I'm pretty sure I haven't made it. I have made it, but Christy has not made it to midnight the last 2 years. So we don't really do anything anyways. New Year's is kind of old. So yeah. But Happy New Year to everyone. Yes, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling 2022.
Wow, there it is. That took all of about 3 minutes to get that in. Yeah, that's great. My New Year's was spent pretty chill as well. We just came back to town earlier that day, so I didn't have much going on here. Just kind of sat around, watched TV, had a little champagne, watched Miley Cyrus lose her top on NBC. It was a great night. It was a great night all around.
I mean, what did NBC expect with Miley and Pete Davidson? I mean,
it was really nobody's fault. This wasn't, I wanted to blame it on Pete. But this was really nobody's fault. She just had a wardrobe malfunction. I kind of enjoyed that show. Granted, I didn't really know a lot of the acts that they had. COVID has really just taken everything again from us. And one of those things was really New Year's Eve because all the shows were a little lackluster. But I don't know. I didn't mind Miley and Pete a little bit. It was kind of fun.
I think Ryan Seacrest had Journey. That was
his. Yeah, that was about the
Journey.
only live performance they had was Journey. Everything else that they showed on Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year's Eve on ABC with Seacrest was archived footage. And Journey was the live performance at midnight. Yes.
I did watch today the Friends episode where Ross and Monica and Joey go to the party. And the routine, yes. I did watch that today. Just coincidentally, it was on TBS, but more New Year's there.
Yeah. Speaking of Friends, this is really totally off the wall, and I don't know how old this is. I guess this is a little ways old, but I just saw this article yesterday. This is just more like clickbait stuff. But have you heard this thing about this Friends episode that they pitched to do at Disney World that they never actually did?
No.
So apparently this back in the 90s when every sitcom did an episode at Disney World, that was just the thing. Yeah. But they wanted Friends to do one there too. And I guess the storyline was that Joey had basically a summer job to be some sort of costumed performer in a parade at the Magic Kingdom. And he was down there for the summer, and the group went down to visit him or something. And he was dating the girl that was Cinderella in the parade. and basically the whole episode was like a Cinderella story using him, but instead of a shoe, it was her bra. And they just decided, Disney decided that it was too risque to have at their park. But I just kind of read that. I thought that was kind of funny. You mentioned Friends. I thought you'd enjoy that. I don't know. Do you think you would have enjoyed that episode? Do you think that would have?
I mean, I enjoy every Friends episode, but I can see where they're coming from.
Yeah,
I can definitely see why they would say no to that.
Yeah. I found that kind of interesting. I think that's old news, but for whatever reason, it just popped up in my timeline yesterday. So, wow, we've been on the show for a while now and haven't really talked about anything. So, let's start with how about moment of the week? Did you have a good moment of the week to go with this week? After the week of no basketball and some football, and what do you got? I know you got something. I know what you're going to go with, but go ahead. As always,
we call this moment of the week, but I always have multiple, so we might need to change it to moments or something like that. Ayo Dosunmu and Malcolm Hill.
I knew that
in the same game.
Yep.
They played each other back-to-back games. It was like a Friday and a Sunday, or like one game, and then 2 days later was another game. The return game was in Chicago, and Malcolm kind of balled out in that one. They both scored double digits in the game in Chicago. Malcolm played 29 minutes, I think. And mind you, he was the 10-day hardship waiver signing for the Hawks because their whole team basically came down with COVID. So he played the entire fourth quarter. The game was down to the wire. So it was really cool to see him actually play some meaningful minutes in the NBA and play pretty well. He only missed one shot, I think. Ayo was just consistent like he has been so far his rookie year. I think he had 11 or 12 points and a couple boards and a couple assists. So that was really cool. Since then, though, Malcolm has gone into the protocol. That was a couple days ago. So with the new CDC rules, he might be coming out of it here pretty soon. But I hope he sticks. I really hope he sticks in the league. I don't know that he will, but he's playing pretty good. And Ayo obviously is having Ayo's not going to get any Rookie of the Year votes, but he's having a really good rookie season for the start of his career.
It's only January.
It is barely January, but
I was going to say he might snag some.
There are some rookies that are like Evan Mobley and Cleveland is averaging like, I don't know his stat line, but every night I see Evan Mobley do something crazy. So I think there already is kind of a runaway. I actually did look up the Rookie of the Year odds a couple of days ago. I looked up all the NBA awards odds, and Rookie of the Year, they had a list of like 10, and Ayo wasn't even on it. Like they're not even giving odds for Ayo. So he's not going to win it, but no, it's good to see him. Good to see him balling out. And we might talk a little more Bulls here. I put it on the rundown, but I don't know if we'll get to it. The other thing was, did you watch the Winter Classic? The NHL Winter Classic?
No, I did catch a few things from it, but I did not watch the game itself. It looked cold though.
Yeah. I'll get to that. First of all, it was in Minneapolis. It was the Minnesota Wild versus St. Louis Blues. And I know Minnesota's the state of hockey or whatever. So they went like all out, and it was awesome. They had the rink in the middle of Target Field where the Twins
play. They never played one of these in Minnesota?
I don't know. I don't remember.
It seems odd.
I know. It definitely does.
I mean, I guess I don't
know where they would have played it.
They've normally tried to do football stadiums, right?
St. Louis was at Busch Stadium. St. Louis had one. It was at Busch.
Okay.
I don't know where Minnesota's would have been, but this one was at Target Field where the Twins play, and they had like makeshift little ponds. You know, like everyone in their backyard in Minnesota has the pond that freezes over. Right. So they had 8 little ponds surrounding the ice. They had people like out there fake ice fishing. They had evergreen tree, like pine trees, like in the outfield covered with snow. And there was like a log cabin back behind it. And that's where the Wild team came of for introductions.
Yeah.
They made it look very Minnesota and very Northern. And it was a really cool setting. And then you add the fact that the temperature at time of puck drop was -6 with a wind chill of -22.
Yikes.
It added so much to it. They had, and I didn't read the article, I just saw the headlines and everyone talking about it. They had to heat the ice because it was so cold. And the only thing I can assume is so the ice didn't get too hard. That's the only thing I could think of. But when you have to heat the ice to play a hockey game, that it's hockey weather. So
yeah, it's cold.
The Winter Classic is always pretty cool just because of the setting. But Minnesota did it the right way, and it was cool that the Blues were in it. Aaron Bennett, those of you in Central Illinois know the name probably, former WCIA anchor. He was there. He told me a couple of weeks ago. He's like, I'm going to the Winter Classic. I was like, good for you, man. I want no part of those negative temperatures. Like, have fun. I'm proud of you, happy for you, but awesome. Cool.
So you're saying you wouldn't go, period.
No.
If even presented with tickets you don't have to pay for.
No, I tweeted that. I tweeted a poll. If you were given free tickets, would you attend an outdoor NHL hockey game in -6-degree temperatures? And it was actually closer than I thought. I got like 150 votes, and it was pretty much 50-50. People said yes and no. I would not. I mean, I think the cutoff would probably be like 25. Yeah. If it's colder than 25, I'm not going.
Yeah, that is cold. I will give you that. Yeah, that's cool. I wanted to see all the places they've done these. It's about split 50-50 in terms of football stadiums and baseball stadiums. I didn't forget about it, but it was here in South Bend a couple of years ago. I did not attend that game. That would have been a cool one to go to. But
who played in that? Detroit and Chicago?
Chicago, Boston.
Oh, interesting.
Chicago, Boston. Yeah, Boston won that 4-2. So they played this in Orchard Park, New York. That was the very first one. Some small place in Erie County. Chicago's hosted at Wrigley Field, Fenway, Heinz Field in Pittsburgh, Citizens Bank Ballpark in Philadelphia, Michigan Stadium in Ann Arbor, Nationals Park in DC, Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Busch Stadium in St. Louis, Citi Field in Queens, Notre Dame Stadium, the Cotton Bowl the Cotton Bowl Stadium in Dallas, and then Target Field. So very cool. Very cool.
So Minnesota had never had one.
Minnesota had never hosted, which to me seems odd because you think that would be the place because it is Minnesota. But either way, good for them. That was cool. That was definitely cool to see. Do you have any other moments that you want to touch on? Okay.
I'll let you go.
My moment, I'll just kind of preface this by saying it was kind of a sad week, just in the world, sports world, entertainment world, a few big name celebrity deaths and things like that. Kind of a sad time. One of those people that we lost this past week was Jeff Dickerson, who is a longtime reporter and covered the Bears out of Chicago, ESPN Chicago, does stuff for the website, for ESPN's website. He just died this past week to, I believe, colon cancer. And what's even worse about this is that his wife, Caitlin, had just died a couple years ago, also to cancer. So now they leave behind an 11-year-old son, Parker. There was a GoFundMe started on behalf of the family, basically for Parker to, basically to, help him through life, essentially started by Jeff's sister-in-law. She started this GoFundMe, put on a goal of $100,000 just to help put him through school and that type of thing. This got pushed out by a lot of people. Adam Schefter. Primarily was pushing this thing tremendously throughout the week. As of right now, this thing is almost to $1.1 million. It is well over $1 million. And it's very close to 1.1, but just some of the names. I was watching this thing all week just to see some of the names that were donating to this. Like, it's incredible. I mean, it's several NFL teams have donated to this. Not only the Bears, but the Packers put in $25,000. The Jets put in $10,000. Jim Irsay, the owner of the Colts, put in $25,000. Obvious Shirts, the company out of Chicago that makes a bunch of those t-shirts, they basically designed a shirt, sold them, gave 100% of the profits from the shirts to this. So they, as a company, have already put in thousands of dollars into this thing. Several other people from Chicago sports world, like Jed Hoyer, Craig Kenny of the Cubs, Anthony Rizzo is on this list of people that have donated, Andy Dalton, Jay Glazer, Theo Epstein is on this list. It's just incredible just to see the amount of people that are putting money towards this thing in support of his son Parker.
Mike Tirico.
Mike Tirico's on this list. I mean, it's great. Like, this list is just, it's a who's who of media and Chicago and NFL. Like, it's wonderful. It's just so cool just to see that. So obviously very sad, to lose him. I know a lot of people have, said their thoughts about him and everything, but just kind of cool to see, this such a huge amount of people that, just care and want to put money towards this and help, basically get this kid through life. So very cool. Unfortunately, it came from a very sad moment, but, a very shining light throughout the whole thing is what this has been able to do. So.
Yeah, I saw the picture of the Bears press box yesterday.
Yep. Yeah.
They had his spot saved with a bunch of flowers and pictures of him and his kid and him and his wife and all that. I did check the GoFundMe, probably Thursday or Friday. And it had just reached like 300,000. Yeah. And Jeffrey Laurie was on there. He donated 10,000. I was like, oh, wow. Like, good for Jeffrey Laurie.
Yeah.
And then now I hadn't checked it until you just started talking about it.
Yeah. It's incredible. The Blackhawks, Tom Ricketts, owner of the Cubs, John Fox. The Miami Dolphins, Mike Tirico.
That's the thing about Chicago.
Seattle Seahawks.
Chicago as a sports town is so the Cubs and White Sox don't always get along, but in things like this, that city really kind of comes together and always seems to do that. So, Chicago's a great sports town and he was one of them, I think, is where all this support comes from. So good to see that come out of a bad situation, a bad circumstance for that family.
Yeah. Well, very cool to see that. That's just something that I was keeping an eye on week, and just to see where it's come, setting that goal, the $100,000, and to see it surpass $1 million and on its way to $1.1 million is really cool. So, all right, let's move on to some college football. This week was obviously big in the. Do
we have a question?
A question of the week?
Are we doing that later?
We're going to tie it into this discussion.
Okay.
We're going to tie that in. We will get to our question of the week. Let's recap last week's question of the week. That's a good point. Let's do that instead. This week's question of the week, I'm going to tie into this conversation that we're about to have. Last week's question of the week, we asked the people, how should games that were impacted by COVID, this being primarily basketball games, how should those games that cannot be rescheduled be handled? Because at the time, when we recorded this last week, there was still a lot of uncertainty as to what conferences were going to do. Some conferences were moving away from their forfeit policy because this thing is so fluid. And, but some conferences like the Big Ten were a little slow to get this thing moving. So we did ask the fans, ask the people out there, how should games impacted by COVID that can't be rescheduled be handled? And of the people that voted, we had 72% say that it should have been a no contest, and 28% said it should have been a forfeit. I agree with the 72%. That's what they should do. I understand the logic, and we talked about this last week. I understand the logic of doing it the other way, having the forfeit and everything. That was when things were a little more, cut and dry. That's not the case anymore. This thing is ripping through everybody. So it's just really a matter of time before anybody picks it up. It doesn't matter if you're vaccinated, unvaccinated, wearing a mask, whatever. People are still catching this thing. It obviously impacted the Illinois program, which we'll talk about a little later. So that was the question this past week. Thank you to everybody that voted for that. We will talk about next week's question of the week here soon, because
I think there could still be some forfeits, because there's going to come a time where you just can't fit that game that was postponed into the schedule. So the team that caused the postponement is going to get a loss.
Probably.
But if I agree with you and with the people that it should be a no contest until it is in stone that they cannot make up that game.
Yeah, I agree. Unfortunately, that's just the world we live in. So, all right, moving on. College football. We had our week of bowl mania. The college football bowl season has almost at this point come and gone. Nearly every game has been played already. I do believe there's one more non-championship game to play
tomorrow night.
Is that correct? Yep. That's tomorrow night.
LSU Kansas State.
Yeah. LSU Kansas State will be played tomorrow. That's Tuesday. Is Is that
Yep.
right? When you're saying tomorrow, we were recording this on Monday. Show will come out on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then obviously the championship game, which we will preview here shortly with Alabama and Georgia. But we did have the big week this past week. Several games were played by the time between when we recorded last up until this past week. Real quickly, I'm just going to go through some of these. I'm just going to go through these scores just to kind of recap these. I'll allow you to give your input on any of these if you decide to, any of these games that you did watch that you care about as, a fan of meaningless college football games.
Let me just throw this out there. I am absolutely stunned that Logan is talking about college bowl games because they are the bane of his existence. He does not want college bowl games. He hates college bowl games, and he doesn't want to watch football between December 15th and January 5th.
They're meaningless, Craig. These are meaningless
disagree.
games.
No, they're not.
Why should I care about a 6-6 football
Did you
team
watch
playing?
them? There were great
No.
bowl games. There was like
care.
5 or 6 great college football games.
It's just like it's exhibition games. Why should I care? I got too much other crap going on around the holiday season. I'm sorry.
I think
sorry.
meaningless is the wrong word.
Why?
Because they mean something. You're telling me
To
that
who?
you're telling me that if Illinois goes to let me find a bowl.
Why
here.
should I be celebrating a 6-win Illinois team?
If Illinois goes
Why should I be celebrating a 6-win Illinois team?
If Illinois goes to the Fiesta Bowl instead of Notre Dame and they play Oklahoma State and they lose by 2,
Sure.
you don't think that's
Okay.
a meaningless game? You think that's a meaningless game?
Hold on. We're on two different conversations here. The New Year's 6 bowl games are a little bit different than these non-New Year's 6 bowl games. Do you agree? Why should I care about a 6-win Illinois football team?
Well then let me give you this example.
Yes, if they were playing for a little bit more than that, sure. I understand what you're saying.
What about the Citrus Bowl? Not a New Year's 6 bowl, but it was played on January 1st. Is it meaningless?
Iowa and Kentucky? What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you see Kentucky's reaction when they won that game?
Listen.
It means something. Winning a bowl game means something. It doesn't matter if you're 6-6 or if you're 10-2.
It means something because this is just the society that we built for the last however many years. I think it's ridiculous. I want a playoff.
I mean, you're going to get that.
I want a 24 team playoff.
You're not going to get that.
Best. I want 24 teams. I want to care about every single postseason game that you're going to offer me.
So you think
is it entertainment? Is it?
You think if they go to 24,
sure.
No one else gets a bowl game? You think to go to a postseason in football, you should have to make the 24?
Why? Why are we still doing this? I don't know. Maybe I'm not diehard of a football fan enough for this, and I think that's probably the point here.
Let me ask you this: if Illinois goes to the Duke's Mayo Bowl and they beat UNC, and Brett Bielema gets a tub of mayo dumped on his head, you're telling me that's meaningless?
It's television. This is just television. That's all this is. Why is football different? Okay. I understand that this is 2022 and we've been doing this for X amount of years and that it's never changed and it's not going to change. But why? Why is there not a playoff system? Why did they just decide someday that they're just going to get one extra game to go play against some team that they have no connection to at some location that fans can just go to for a little vacation, and not have any? Eventually they added the BCS championship game, and eventually they went to this 14 playoff, and eventually we're going to go to an 18 playoff or a 12 team playoff, whatever. We're moving towards the direction. I just don't understand why we have 30 football games that I'm supposed to care about.
Do you think the smart answer is safety? They don't want to add 4 more or 3 more games to the season?
It probably is.
So you just give them one game, call it a bowl game, and then that's the postseason.
I don't know. This goes into the whole. I don't know. There are certainly a lot of things. I'm sorry if I offended you, and those fans out there. I just think meaningless is the wrong word. Games.
I think meaningless is the wrong word.
They do mean something to those players because that's what our sports society has instilled in them. They are playing for a bowl game.
Yeah.
They can't play for a national title, so they get one more game. I understand that.
Now, I'll agree with you that if Alabama is playing Illinois in a New Era Pinstripe Bowl game, it probably doesn't mean anything to Alabama.
No.
I will say that. But to most of these programs, a bowl game win is something to hang your hat on.
Sure. To those players it is. And for the people that just want entertainment. I want more gravitas. I want a construct. I want there to be a reason that we're doing this, as opposed to just fill TV time between Christmas and New Year's, and for these companies to make a shit ton of money off these players, and the players to have bragging rights or win whatever trophy they win for winning the Cheez-It Bowl or whatever it is that they do. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and try to bash these players for playing these games. That's certainly not what I'm saying. I just, as somebody that is probably not as diehard of a college football fan to begin with, and who is very much adamant about wanting to see an actual playoff system, I would have rather seen. I would love to see the winner of some of these bowl games play another game against somebody else, to then play another game to see who's actually the best team in the country. I would rather see that, as opposed to Virginia Tech and Maryland, two teams that had no business with my attention playing a game at some venue because, that was a Yankee Stadium. Cool. I don't know. I'm lucky
for you. You're going to get what you're
it.
asking for in a couple of years. So
I'm not going to get 24 teams.
No,
I'm not getting 24 teams.
You're not going to get 24, but you're going to get probably 12. I think it's going to go 12.
I think it will go to 12.
Sorry,
yeah,
I
don't know.
Was totally sidetracked because
no, it's fine. This is the conversation that I knew we were going to have. And I don't know. I'm just not. Some of them, yes, some of them are meaningful, but they would be more meaningful if there was a game following that. If I got to see the winner of Ohio State and Utah, which was an excellent game for the record, play against the winner of Baylor and Ole Miss, that means more than just seeing one more extra football game that these two teams get to play. Because you know what? None of them really want to be there. They would rather be playing in a playoff too. So this is their consolation. This is also why players are opting out of these games, which is another conversation that we definitely need to have. That has stirred up some discussions amongst the powers that be.
We can hop in right now. We don't need to go over these scores.
We don't need to go over these games. Whatever. This is the thing. So your boy, Kirk Herbstreit.
Why'd you call him your boy? He's like me and him are tight.
No, I don't know. Kirk Herbstreit, who is a commentator that I admire, and I think he's very good at his job, made a comment on, I guess it was essentially game day or whatever it was, leading into one of these games over the weekend.
It was before the Fiesta Bowl, Saturday.
I don't have the exact quote pulled up, but he essentially said that the players in today's college football don't love the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then Desmond Howard essentially agreed with him that players of their generation, by them, Kirk and Desmond's generation, cared about football more. That's what he was trying to insinuate.
I think Kirk said these players don't love football.
Yes.
Straight up. He said they don't love football.
Let's just start it there. How do you feel about that comment?
I don't think it's true whatsoever.
No.
I think there might be a handful that see it as their opportunity to make money more so than their love of football. But I do think if you don't love football, you're 99.999% of players aren't going to put on pads if they don't love to play football.
Right. So I agree with you. I don't think that was the right verbiage for him to say. I do not think that is true. The reason the players are opting out is because they have a chance to make money, and they don't want to risk hurting themselves like the quarterback from Ole Miss did in the bowl game that he did play. Now, I'm going to circle back and use a word that you don't like that I used, they're meaningless games, which is why these players are opting out. If these weren't meaningless games that these players were playing in, they would not be opting out of this. If Ole Miss was playing on that night against Baylor for a chance to play in the national championship or a chance to advance to the next round of the playoff, these players aren't opting out. These players at Ohio State aren't opting out. They're only opting out because the outcome of this game literally means nothing to them. They are more concerned about their future, which I get. 100% understand that. I support that decision. But these games are meaningless to these players when it comes to that. Is it meaningless to every single person on the roster? No, because a lot of them, that is the last chance they're going to get to play football. So I get that argument. But for a good number of these players, that game, if they're not playing for something more, if they are just playing for the Fiesta Bowl title, that game is meaningless. And that's why I think they need to do something about it. Because now with NIL and with more and more of these players opting out to go play, I don't want to up the chances of them getting hurt and ruining their draft stock, which you can make the argument that more games would increase that. But what are we here to do? Are we here for college football or are we here for NFL football? Like, you have to decide if you're here for your sport and for your business, or are you here to improve the NFL? I think that's what these people need to decide they're doing. And why is it different now than it was X amount of years ago? I think NIL has something to do with it. And I just think some of these games at this point, they would just rather make the money. You agree?
Yeah, I do. Basically the whole time you were talking, I was trying to think of where I was going to go with my rebuttal here. I mean, I agree with a lot of what you said. I just don't love the fact that Kirk is trying to speak for them. Like, he's not the one making the decision. So I don't think it, and I know it's his job as an analyst and as an ESPN talking head to put his thoughts out there and say what he believes. But when it comes to that, it's like you're putting words in these kids' mouths, and that's not what it is. Do I like the opt-outs? Heck no, I don't. Like, I would love to see Kenneth Walker and Kenny Pickett go head to head in the Peach Bowl. But would we have got to see Jackson Smith and Jigba's performance in the Rose Bowl had they had Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave? No, he caught 15 passes for 327 yards. Like, that doesn't happen if he's got those other two players. So it is what it is. And we are seeing more and more of it. Was Christian McCaffrey the first to do it, or was it going on before him?
It was probably going on before him.
Okay, because he's the name that always gets brought up as kind of the guy that's like the first to do it. But
it really kind of started with him. I want to mention Kyle Did you see Kyle Hamilton's tweet from the other night? The corner or the safety from Notre Dame.
He's one of my favorite prospects. Draft.
He is a top, definitely a first round draft pick.
Probably top 5 or 10.
Probably, yeah, exactly. He opted out of the Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah,
rightfully so. You're a top 10 projected draft pick. This game means nothing to him. Mm-hmm. I get it that, I don't want to let the people down, the fans and everything down, but like, my coach just left. So why should I feel necessarily obligated to play this when my future is also on the line? Yep. But he did quote tweet what Herb Street said. And I think it makes a lot of sense. He said, another sports broadcast offers you the opportunity to make X amount of dollars that would help you and your family in ways that you couldn't in the past. Well, there's a possibility that you don't get to the job if you do another college game day. What do you do? And I think that's right. I think there's something, I think what Kirk was trying to say, there was merit to it, but it definitely did not come out the right way.
Yeah.
And I think that's the argument. You can make the argument with coaches too. I mean, coaches, as we just talked about, are leaving as soon as the season ends. Mm-hmm. Brian Kelly was out even before he knew if his team was playing in the playoff. Notre Dame was very close to playing in the college football playoff. Yeah. And they weren't going to be without the guy that led them there.
Yeah.
So we just made this thing very fluid. Transfer portal, NIL, the coaches being able to leave like this. I don't want to say that guys should or shouldn't leave, but if you're not going to have these games that are meaningful, that they're playing for something, then, I mean, imagine if a college basketball player right before the national tournament who is totally healthy and their team is a top 3 seed going to the tournament, if their best player just says, nah, I got to focus on, like, that's not a thing. They don't do that in basketball, but they do it in football because the games don't mean anything unless they're playing in the playoff. That's the problem I have. That's where the meaningless comes into play. I understand it's not meaningless for everybody. It's not meaningless for a lot of those players. It's not meaningless for a lot of the fans. I understand that, but it is meaningless to some people who have their eyes set on their future. And that's not the case in other sports. It's just not. It's just football.
Yeah. Back to Kyle Hamilton. His case, I think it's cut and dry. He's a top 5, top 10 pick.
Right.
Meaningless game. Him, Kayvon Thibodeau, those guys that are top 5, 10 picks in the NFL draft have no reason to play. The ones that I question are like the Kenneth Walker. Like, he's probably not a first round pick. Maybe not even, he might be a second, because running backs are getting drafted a little bit higher now. So he might be a second round pick. He could be a first round pick. I'm no NFL draft expert, but I feel like he, even though it's a meaningless game, I feel like he could have improved his stock if he goes out and has a good game. Those are the ones that I question. Did they make the right decision? I'm not questioning their decision, because that's their decision. If they don't want to play, if they don't want to take the chance, by all means, do what you need to do. Would I have done that if I was him? Probably not. Those are the ones that I question. But that is a good point that Hamilton made, and a good way to put it, that if another network offers him X amount of dollars, but it's not guaranteed that he gets it if he does another game. That's a great analogy. I love that, the way you put that.
Yeah. I don't know. The whole thing is just kind of a mess. And I understand that it's not changing really. They might add more playoff games. I think they will add more playoff games, more playoff teams. It's not going to change the whole system, and that's whatever. But I just think it's just kind of, the conversation has grown or gotten to this point now because of these other things. It's because of NIL and transfer portal, and the fact that coaches can just not that they can, that they do. They just up and leave before the season's even done. So that's why some of this stuff is getting out of hand. Do I think it'll help if they have more meaningful games in their postseason? Yes. Does that solve the problem entirely? No. But Kyle Hamilton doesn't take that game off if it's for a shot at the national title or for a shot to go to the national title. He doesn't take that game off.
Yep.
Kenneth Walker doesn't sit out of that game if Michigan State's in the playoff.
Yep. And
so
if you're because they were New Year's 6 games.
I was going to say, if you're the NCAA, but it's not really the NCAA that's controlling this. If you're the college football playoff committee, what do you care more about? Do you care more about your marquee players playing in your product, or do you care more about your marquee players focusing on their future? I get that there's some moral and ethical questions in there that you have to decide. It's not necessarily black and white, but like, this is your product that you are out here trying to push and trying to promote and sell. And if your best players are walking away because they're not playing in a meaningful game, and instead we're just going to see Alabama and Georgia playing another championship game, which nobody outside of Alabama and Georgia cares about. Let's be honest, unless you have a lot of money riding on the game. I would love to see a movement happen that just says, don't watch these games, just to see. I know that's not realistic. That's never going to happen because whatever, but like, people don't care.
Yeah.
Boycott it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that proves anything.
Well,
they're the 2 best teams in the country. Of course they should play the championship game.
The stat that I told
you
2 episodes ago, I think someone tweeted out the viewership of the bowl games the first week, like the Mizzou Army game and like the Middle Tennessee State versus Akron game or whatever. They were getting like 3 million viewers, and game 7 of the NBA finals was getting 2.2 million.
People still watch them. I mean, I'm certainly not arguing with that. I understand that people watch these bowl games and people watch college football in general. So it is a money-making machine, no matter what the game is. No matter if this is a MAC game on a Thursday night in October, or if this is a Rose Bowl game, people are going to watch. Like that's not the thing. Do people care that much about an Alabama Georgia rematch? I don't.
No,
I really don't.
No.
Am I going to watch? It might be on the iPad. It might be on the second screen.
Yeah.
That's really about it.
It's in Indianapolis. We could meet at the middle.
Did you see that article that was floating around today?
Yeah, the Atlanta Journal-Courier.
Yeah, I read it. I mean, I get people were pissed about it. Like Indiana people were pissed about it, but like he didn't really say anything that wasn't factual. He was just saying that tickets are expensive and that it's going to be really cold there.
I looked up tickets like 2 weeks ago, actually, and the cheapest one was $1,200.
Yeah. I mean, people were upset because he was bashing Indianapolis, saying there was nothing to do here, that they were going to
city.
That Georgia. Did you read the article?
No, I saw the headline.
Ironically enough, the article talked about the Georgia fans were actually staying in Louisville because it's cheaper and there's quote unquote more to do, is what they said. I don't know if I buy it. I love Indianapolis personally. But the article, basically he was just saying the tickets are really freaking expensive and it's going to be really stupid cold outside. That the game is indoors, obviously, but
any Georgia fans in town, hit me up. I'm here.
Yeah, there you go. Come hang out with Craig. Alabama, Georgia, they win their respective semifinals, as kind of expected. I think both of us were probably hoping the other way around, but that's really not what happened. Cincinnati, they didn't look like they were ready to compete with Alabama, but they didn't exactly look like they didn't belong. They didn't really let Alabama roll over them. The score is not indicative of that, and they did not score a touchdown, so that does not help their case. But I think I probably would have thought that Alabama would have looked a lot stronger against them than they really did. I know people, I mentioned it. I didn't really hear that much about it today, I think because Notre Dame lost, but I was already sick of the Notre Dame. It should be Notre Dame in this game instead of Cincinnati narrative. Before the game even started, I was sick of that. Yeah. So people can complain all they want about the outcomes of these games and how they were fairly lopsided, because in fairness, they were. I mean, Alabama beat Cincinnati by 24 points and Georgia beat Michigan by 23 points. So, I mean, these weren't exactly the closest of football games. So you could make the argument that there could be better teams, but all these games are always like this. Always. They always, more often than not, these are 20 plus point differences. So I don't care who's in it. Alabama and Georgia were probably still going to do that. They were clearly the best two teams in football all season long. Granted, nobody wanted to believe it about Alabama, but we all knew deep down inside that they were, and they showed it. Yeah. So they win their respective bowl games. They go to the college football championship game here. Is that next week? Next Monday night?
Week from tonight.
Yeah, next Monday night, as we mentioned, that will be played in Indianapolis. I
turned the games off. Yeah,
I didn't watch. The only bowl game that I honestly paid much attention to was Oklahoma State, Notre Dame, and Ohio State and Utah. Those were really the only two games that I really gave much of my attention to, at least full all the way through.
I had my TV did not change from college football from the morning of the 30th. And I say I turned them off. They were on, but I focused my attention to my Xbox. I started playing Xbox and they were the background noise for me. So from the 30th, that's when I started. The Music City Bowl was great. Purdue and Tennessee. There's another one that day, I thought. Maybe not. And then the New Year's 6 on the 30th or on the 1st was fantastic. The Rose Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, Sugar Bowl was kind of lackluster. I'm not going to lie. Sugar Bowl kind of sucked, the nightcap. But the Rose Bowl was bonkers. Utah and Ohio State. It was absolutely back and forth. 5 touchdowns in a 2.5 minute span at one point. It was insanity. But yeah, the college football, the playoff games, I turned off. I I kind of the Alabama-Cincinnati game, the first drive, Alabama kind of had their way.
Yeah.
And I could tell Cincinnati was just overmatched. Just looking at the players.
Right.
The linemen looked 2 times as big. Everyone on Alabama was faster than Cincinnati. They were completely overmatched.
Right.
So I think Alabama, if they wanted to, could have put up 50. They could have won
Probably.
50-10. And then Michigan shocked me how unprepared they were.
Yeah.
They looked like a completely different team. Their offense didn't know what to do. And I remember saying it last week that maybe Georgia's defense wasn't as good as we thought they were, and they didn't play as tough of a schedule as we thought, but that's completely wrong. That defense was locked and loaded. I had critiqued their quarterback, Stetson Bennett, a couple times, and he looked phenomenal. So just completely misread that game. I thought Michigan could come in and run it a little bit and establish the game, and they were also overmatched from the start. So Big Ten struggles continue. I don't know. I guess Ohio State won one a couple years ago, but yeah, SEC continues to dominate, and everyone's sick of it. So
you said Ohio State won a couple years ago.
The first one, 2015,
the very first college football playoff championship game. Yes, where they were the 4 seed and beat Oregon 42-20. A Big Ten team has not been back to the championship since
that. Yeah.
We've seen Alabama several times, Clemson several times, Georgia now a couple of times, and LSU's been in there once. But yes, the Big Ten struggles to get much. The Big Ten.
Is this the second All SEC or third All SEC championship game? I know Georgia Bama was 2 or 3 years ago.
Georgia Bama in 17, and that is it. So the only times it's been All SEC was Georgia Bama 17 and Georgia Bama 21.
That was the year that Tua replaced Jalen Hurts in the championship and threw the game winner.
Yep. 14 was Ohio State over Oregon. 15 was Alabama over Clemson. 16 was Clemson over Alabama. 17 was Alabama over Georgia. 18 was Clemson over Alabama. 19 was LSU over Clemson. 20 was Alabama over Ohio State. And 21 Alabama over Georgia.
Fox Sports College Football put out a post on Instagram. Nick Saban has been at Alabama, I think, for 15 years now. And he's been maybe 13 years. One of the two. Shoot, I should have looked it up. He's been to the championship game more than he's not in his time.
That makes sense. I do want to point out, I think I falsely mentioned that a Big Ten team had not been back to the championship. That was wrong because Ohio State played in the championship game last year.
Yeah.
They have not won one since. This is not going to be our question of the week, but this is a question that I'm going to toss to you. Maybe we can make the question of the week if we decide we like it better. What happens first? A Big Ten team wins the NCAA basketball championship, men's basketball championship, or a Big Ten team wins the college football playoff?
No, basketball.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Basketball. I think okay. I'm just curious.
I think the only team in the Big Ten that could do it is Ohio State. And I think that could pull the football off is Ohio State. Basketball, maybe not this year. I think last year was probably the best chance. You had Illinois, Michigan. Wasn't there another? Who else? Who was the other good?
Purdue.
I thought they were like.
Wait, what are you talking about? Basketball last year?
Basketball last year. Illinois and Michigan, were they like
Iowa?
Iowa was a 2 seed. Yeah. Iowa. I thought that was the best chance. I still think basketball wins before football does. I just don't. Okay. I mean, SEC has won what, the last 5 out of 6.
The Big Ten does have. The Big Ten does have 2. I mean, it has at least a win and a runner-up. Granted, it's both times it's been Ohio State, but
no, I'm going basketball.
When was the last time when was the last time Big Ten team had a? When's the last time Big Ten? That's the last time the Big Ten won a national championship in football with Michigan State.
No, basketball. You're talking basketball, right? You said football.
Yes. When was the last
Michigan State?
Okay, so you're telling me that even though Ohio State has been to the championship twice and won it once, just 7 years ago, you're still picking basketball? I'm just asking.
Yeah,
Great
I'll stick with
content.
basketball. I'll stick with basketball. I was
I'll
trying to
take
think
football.
of what Ohio State has coming.
I'll take football. I know that
I'm
the SEC
debating
is
now
dominating it.
because how Ohio State looks so good
I
in the Rose Bowl.
understand what you're saying, but I would still take football. I'm not saying that either of them happen within the next couple of years because let's be honest, the Big Ten has a tendency to dominate during the regular season, but during the playoff and the postseason, they cannot get it together. All right. So that's going to lead us to our actual question of the week this week. We kind of talked about it before we went on, but we haven't really talked about it on the show yet. Alabama. You mentioned about Nick Saban wins this thing more than he loses or whatever you said. Alabama is now, since the college football playoff has been a thing, which has been since 2014, Alabama has won the title 3 years, pending a fourth next week. And they've also been in the playoff 2 more times since then. So they have, in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years that this thing has been around, Alabama has played in the championship game 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. They have only not been in the championship game twice. That was in the very first year in 2014 and then in 2019. Is Alabama and their success bad for college football? That's going to be our question of the week. I would like to hear Craig's answer on this, but I know he doesn't want to,
Influence the listeners.
Influence the listeners. But I think it is an interesting question. Is Alabama and their success in college football bad for the sport? I think it's an interesting question. I don't think anything's changing. I mean, they're just going to continue to dominate, and I don't know that stops until Nick Saban decides he's done. Then maybe there's a shot. But I think it's an interesting question because
he is 70 years old, by the way. For those that might question when he might call it quits, he is 70.
He might do this thing for another 20 years.
No,
just saying.
Maybe 5.
Whatever. But that is going to be our question of the week this week. Is Alabama's sustained success in college football bad for the sport of college football? We will have that up on our Twitter feed on Tuesday for the folks at home to answer that. Before we move on,
did you say that Alabama has been in 6 of the last 7 national championship games? Did you say that?
6 of the last 8. Well, yes, because technically 6 of the last 7.
6 of the last 7. Yeah, 6 of the last 7. Okay, I didn't know if
2001 or 21, 20, 18, 17, 16, and 15.
Yeah.
They've been in it 6 times. This thing has been around for 8 years. And so only twice have they not played in this thing. So I want to say, the other 2 years, were they even in the playoff? I don't remember. 2019,
19, they were LSU. Not. 14, they were not. No, they weren't.
Okay.
He's never lost in the semi.
Okay. Well, good for him. Good for Nick Saban. So that's going to be our question of the week. Do we need to go over the games last week or the bowl games?
No.
We kind of talked about the important ones. Michigan State beating Pittsburgh in the Chick-fil-A Bowl.
I did want to mention, though, it wasn't a New Year's Six, so I wasn't sure if you were going to mention it. It was really cool to see Bob Stoops win the bowl game for Oklahoma.
Yes. And his son had a good day too.
Cool. His son caught a touchdown, and then after the game, he called Brett Venables up on the podium and took his visor off. You know, Stoops always wore the visor. Took his visor off and put it on Venables' head and was like, "You're in good hands. This guy's going to do great." I thought that was going to be a moment of the week, but I figured we'd talk about it here. It was really cool.
That was cool. That was one of the real highlights from the earlier games. That really should have been a more, and not necessarily a New Year's Six matchup, but that was a pretty good game too. Just kind of go over some of these real quick. We just mentioned Oklahoma over Oregon in the Alamo Bowl. Let's see, what else do we want to highlight? The Duke's Mayo Bowl. I mean, that was just TV. That was just TV gold. Watching Mike Golick Jr. just dip Oreos and whatever else into mayo.
You got to make that game fun somehow.
I saw you were tweeting about, I don't know where you stand on mayo. I am anti-mayo. Personally, I like mayo. You're a mayo guy. Okay, that kind of surprises me. All right, so South Carolina over North Carolina for the Carolina Bowl and the Mayo Bowl. Purdue with the thriller in overtime over Tennessee. You mentioned that. Wisconsin won their bowl game over Arizona State in the Las Vegas Bowl. The Gator Bowl, Wake Forest took down a very undermatched Rutgers team that shouldn't have been in that game to begin with, but they were because of, COVID. They won that one 38-10. The Outback Bowl, Arkansas over Penn State 24-10. Kentucky over Iowa in the Citrus Bowl 20-17. And then the big one, as I mentioned, Michigan State over Pittsburgh in the Peach Bowl. The thriller in Pasadena, Ohio State over Utah in the Rose Bowl. The Fiesta Bowl was fun. Oklahoma State over Notre Dame, 37-35. A ho-hum game for Baylor to take the belt, Tim Lee. Baylor now holds the Roosevelt belt. We finally get this thing out of the SEC.
I had no idea that Ole Miss had the Roosevelt belt.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about it. My dad was pretty pissed. I was in the house with him. He was in the basement. I was upstairs, and I got an angry text from him that we didn't even mention it last week. So yes, Ole Miss had the Roosevelt belt, carrying it into that game against Baylor. And then, of course, Baylor wins it. Tim has done the research here, but I don't have time to really look through it. I don't know. I want to see when the last time it was out of the SEC, because I feel like it's been there for a long time. But either way, Baylor has that now.
While we're on that game, I think the Baylor fan base really likes me. Did you see my tweet? So after they won, I did a little bit, and I've kind of thought this all season, because Baylor growing up was a program that we were like, it was kind of an afterthought until like the last 10 years, in football and in basketball.
Yeah.
But after that game was kind of sealed, I tweeted, no better athletic program right now than Baylor Athletics. Good time to be in Waco. That's all I said. I did tag Baylor, the athletic program, in it.
Did you tag Chip?
No, I tagged the Baylor athletic program. They were the first ones to like it.
Should have tagged Chip Gaines.
I should have. They were the first ones to like it, and they quote tweeted it with
I did not
say
see
it.
this.
They were like, say it louder, and it blew up. It is now one of my most retweeted and liked tweets ever. It has 128 retweets and more than 1,000 likes.
I gotta find this.
More than 90,000 Twitter impressions. It is one of my most successful tweets ever. So I'm like an honorary member of the Baylor fan base now. They love me.
Let's see, when was this?
January 2nd.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Look at you, Craig. That's fun.
The reason I said it though is because men's basketball is number 1. Football will be top 5. Probably. They were 7. They won the Sugar Bowl. They'll probably be top 5. Women's basketball is number 10. Their volleyball was number 5, I think. No, they were ranked 5. They got beat in the Sweet 16, so they ended the year ranked number 10. Like, it's just like all around, like everything Baylor seems to be good. So
they're good.
I think they're probably the overall best athletic program in the country, and the fans down there really like me now.
I'm going to give you a retweet just to add to your total. I did, for the record, I did look it up. Tim has the stats here. This is the first time the belt has left the SEC since 2019. I figured it was probably longer than that, but 2019 it was out of the SEC. I don't know who had it. I'm not going to look that up. But either way, Baylor has the belt now after beating Ole Miss. And then we mentioned Alabama over Cincinnati and Georgia over Michigan in the semifinals. So that's going to lead us into our picks, which I once again outdid Craig this week. I went 10-6. He went 9-7, bringing my total on the year to an overwhelming 148-65 over his 139-74. So congratulations, Logan. Yay me. I am the greatest man alive. Victory. I don't have a speech prepared, but I will be awaiting my plaque or my trophy or whatever I'm going to get in the mail. I will send you my address so that you have it. And I just want to thank all the little people out there.
We picked 213 football games this year. 214.
That's why our shows were 2 hours long.
Yeah. 70% success rate for Mr. Logan Lee.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. I'm not going to lie. So thank you for joining us for that this season. It's been a lot of fun for me to watch me kick Craig's butt as somebody that is a fairly casual college football fan. You know, as we've talked about, they're all meaningless games. But yes, I am victorious, and I will be awaiting my plaque in the mail. We do have one more game.
Little do you know, this game counts for 200 points. So
are we picking the LSU and whoever they play game?
No.
Oh, no. Okay. So we're just picking one
LSU,
more game.
I just saw today, LSU has 37 scholarship players and 0 quarterbacks available.
None of them are quarterbacks. Yes. No, thank you. Actually, that might be interesting to watch just for the heck of it. Yeah. I don't even know what you do there. Run the Wildcat, I guess. All right. We are going to pick one more game to close out the season. Granted, my lead is too insurmountable for Craig. We're going to pick it for the heck of it anyway. This is the college football championship game on January 9th, presented by AT&T, because we have to get that in there because, they are not sponsored.
No free ads.
We're not sponsored by them. No free ads. Hashtag no free ads. This game is played at Lucas Oil Stadium in downtown Indianapolis on a very frigid, probably 10-degree day next Monday night. They will be inside, though. So good for you people that are going to be there. A rematch from the SEC title game just a few weeks ago. 13-1 Georgia, 13-1 Alabama. Alabama got the win over Georgia, who at the time was the number 1 team in the country. That is Georgia's only loss of the season to Alabama. Both teams 13-1. This game, 8:00 ESPN here next Monday night. Craig, for the heck of it, who are you taking, Alabama or Georgia?
Who do you think's the favorite? Vegas line.
Well, the fact that you asked me makes me think it's not Alabama. My guess would have been Alabama.
It's not.
Really?
Georgia is a 3-point favorite.
That surprises me. I wonder why that is.
I think
do they
just
still think
so
Georgia's
good.
The better team?
I think Georgia just looks so good on both sides of the ball.
Interesting.
I think if they would have won a close game over Michigan, I think Alabama probably would have been favored. But since they looked the way they did, I think Georgia. That's why they went with Georgia.
That means absolutely nothing to Alabama.
No,
they could care less.
That rat poison was yummy. Oh my God. And also, I know we've talked for college football for like an hour now, 45 minutes now, but
oh boy.
Did you see Will Anderson, the linebacker, what he said before the game against Cincinnati?
Refresh me.
Okay. I got to pull it up because I
don't remember. I'm sure I probably did.
It's like the dude is so, to me, this is his quote. To me, I still feel like we're the underdog in this game.
Yes.
All year we have been disrespected. I'm pretty sure we're still getting disrespected out there. You're freaking Alabama, dude. Shut up. That's why I hate Alabama. They just like, how does Alabama think they're an underdog against Cincinnati?
Tell themselves something. They got to psych themselves up somehow.
All right.
Because Cincinnati was everybody's darling. Everybody wanted to root for Cincinnati.
Yeah.
It's not that people thought Cincinnati was going to beat Alabama. It's that people wanted Cincinnati.
Wanted it to happen. Yeah, that makes sense.
That's probably what he was going off of. Whatever.
God.
All right. The Tide or the Dogs, who you taking in the championship game?
Let's both pick it at the same time because I think that'll be better. Because I don't want to say something and then you go the opposite. So
okay.
All right. 3, 2, 1, Georgia. I'm going with Georgia.
I was gonna take Alabama.
Are you doing that because I went with Georgia? Did you want to?
No, that's who I was gonna. I was trying to think of something funny to say at the moment, and I couldn't come up with anything great to say.
So
at the
you
same
just didn't
time.
say anything.
So I just didn't say anything.
Awesome.
Like AFC Richmond or Salukis or Illini. No, I'm going to take Alabama. I'm not going to say that just because you picked Georgia. I'm picking Alabama. I do think they will win this game, even though they are not favored.
Yeah.
Really doesn't matter for what we're doing because, as I said, I got a pretty darn good lead on you.
This really counts for 200, though.
Whatever. All right.
Let's move on.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about college football. We are still in college basketball season for those at home keeping track. Although a lot of the college basketball world, including those of us, the program that we are closest to, has pretty much been in a pause because of COVID. Illinois went on a pause. So they played, we talked about this last week, obviously. They played against Missouri in the bragging rights game right before Christmas. Then they went on Christmas break. Everybody went home or went to their families, whatever they did for like 3 days. And they come back the day after Christmas or whenever it was. And they had like 10 positive COVID cases within the program. None of them were coaches, I believe. I believe this was all players.
Underwood talked to media today and said it was all players. Some mild symptoms, some were pretty severe, he said.
So they had to shut down the program. They had to go on pause. They canceled the game against Florida A&M that was supposed to be last Wednesday. The Minnesota game was supposed to be this past weekend. It then got pushed up to Tuesday night, which will be tonight for those that are listening to the show on Tuesday when it will get dropped. So that game is now being played Tuesday night. We're assuming it's going to be played Tuesday night. Sounds like because of the CDC restrictions that went from 10 days to 5 days, that it helped the program, because if they were still on a 10-day quarantine, I don't think they'd be playing this game on Tuesday night. But it sounds like the players that did test positive, I don't know what the roster is going to look like. Was that ever established when he talked to the media? Did he?
Yeah,
did
he said
mention?
everyone is available except for Hutcherson and Curbelo.
Okay, so the COVID thing shouldn't have an impact then on this team at this point. Just the two players that we haven't seen for a while are the only ones that are going to be out. So Illinois goes to Minnesota Tuesday night, the game that was supposed to play this past weekend, 7 o'clock Eastern time on FS1. This Illinois team was riding high for a while. This was supposed to be a pretty nice run to go on. I think I had predicted at one point they were going to go 7-0 in this stretch, which they certainly, well, they can't do now. Well, they could, I guess, but the one game's not happening. Obviously, Florida A&M is not happening. So they will now continue that. Illinois has not played a game since that was December 23rd, I believe.
22nd, I think.
22nd against Missouri. When was the last time Minnesota played a game? Do you have that in the notes? The same day? Yes. So neither of these teams have played since December 22nd. So it's been quite a bit of time here for both of these games. Minnesota is a little bit better than I think people thought they would be going into the season. This is a new team all across the board. This is a new coach and a new, I assume mostly a new staff and an entirely new roster from what they've had in the past. But they're looking pretty good already. They're 10-1 on the season. They don't have a lot of marquee wins. They do have a win over a not very good Michigan team. That's really their best win on the season. But it's still something to talk about. They're 68 in Ken Palm. In terms of those ratings, I believe Illinois is like 11th, I think, just for reference.
Last I saw was 14th.
Okay, something like that. They're top 15. So yeah, that is the game coming up here on Tuesday night. Thoughts going into this? Where do you stand? Are you worried? I mean, we talked about it. This could be a difficult game going to Minnesota. I think I was a little bit more confident on it when we talked, 2 weeks ago, than you were. Are you still feeling that way?
No, I mean, this is something that you're going to have to keep an eye out on with any program, because you never know how the team's going to respond coming out of a pause. Louisville down here, they had a pause. They had to postpone or to cancel their game against Kentucky because of a pause. They've come back and they've won 2 ACC games. They beat Wake Forest and they beat Georgia Tech on Sunday night. So they've responded well, but you just never know. So I know fans might think, all right, we're going into Minnesota, who's not very good. Their entire rosters, transfers, completely new players. They got a new coach. Like you might think this should be a cakewalk, but Minnesota's playing well and Illinois is coming off a pause. I know Minnesota hasn't played a game in the same amount of days, but they've at least been able to practice. Illinois, I don't know how much they've been practicing. I think Brett Behrens might have tweeted a story out that they got back on the court Sunday, or maybe it was Saturday. But I mean, when you're in quarantine, you're sitting at your apartment by yourself, not working out. And on a 15-player roster, when 10 of your players test positive, you can't do anything. And we are not reporters here, but I'm not going to share any of the reporters' work. But the players that I saw that were available for practice aren't the key players. So the ones that were getting in the good work with the coaches aren't players that Illinois counts on. At least some of them aren't. So it could be tough. It could definitely be a tough game. The line might be out by now. Normally it comes out 24 hours before. I think it's a single digit game either way. I think it's a 5-6 point game. Illinois could win, but Illinois could definitely lose this game. So I think we need to have our attention spans up. And yeah, the line is Illinois -5.5. So right about where I just said, between 5 and 8 point game. So I'm a little concerned, but I think most programs are concerned when they're coming off a pause because you just never know.
Yeah. This is absolutely the world we live in right now.
Yeah.
This is affecting everybody. So everybody's going to have to deal with these at one point or another. We'll just have to see. I think certainly on paper, Illinois is the better team here. Illinois, granted, their record doesn't show it. They have an All-American at center. They have players around him that have been shooting lights out before the pause. On paper, yes, this should be Illinois by 10. I don't think it'll be like that. I agree with you. I think it is probably a single digit score. I do think.
Hope I'm wrong.
I do have confidence that Illinois will be fine and go on the win and go on the road and get a nice road win to improve to 3-0 in the conference. But that could certainly go the other way too. So let's just hope that's not the case. A little bit more on Minnesota. Jamison Battle is a transfer from George Washington. He's our leading scorer right now at just under 19 points and 6.5 rebounds a game. Peyton Willis, who has put up 16 points per game this season, is shooting 40% from three. He's now transferred. Is this correct? He went from Vanderbilt to Minnesota to the College of Charleston and then back to Minnesota.
That's what his ESPN bio says.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that's fun. Either way, that is the game Tuesday night, Illinois at Minnesota, 7:00 Eastern time, 6:00 Central time on FS1. Our plan, I should preface this by saying this is our plan because, plans don't always happen. Our plan is to do a post-game reaction after this game. We're going to try to start doing those a little more frequently. So if you are listening to this on Tuesday, you can maybe expect there to be another episode dropping after the game Tuesday or maybe Wednesday morning. Do we want to preview the Maryland game anyway? Or do you want to just say that? Because Illinois, because of this schedule change, is playing Tuesday night in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, and then Thursday night in Champaign against Maryland for Io DeSumo night at State Farm Center.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Should we preview that game too?
Or might as well.
Wait and save that for the post game. All right. So yes, as I said, Thursday night. Just
quickly here.
Thursday night, Maryland comes to town for Io DeSumo night. They're going to recognize the former Illini All-American, who he was back for the banner raising that they did before the exhibition game or whatever the game that was early in the season. This would be the night that they probably, I assume, reveal his banner. Is that what they're doing?
I'm sure. I think they're raising his jersey up.
Okay.
Or his whatever. Yeah, jersey, banner, whatever it is.
So that is Thursday night in Champaign, 7:00 again. This one on ESPN2. Maryland is 56 in Ken Palm, so a little higher than Minnesota is right now. They're 8-4 on the season. They have only played one game in the Big Ten. They lost to Northwestern, so they are 0-1. As of recording, they're playing a game tonight. Is that correct?
Yep.
They're playing Iowa tonight. So by the time the show drops, they will have played a second game in the Big Ten. They do have an interim coach. That I forgot that whole thing happened just a few weeks ago. But Danny Manning is running that program right now. So that was some strange turnover during the season. But yes, that is the game for Thursday night. So Illinois with not necessarily back-to-back games, but a very quick turnaround from Tuesday to Thursday on a team that is, as you mentioned, coming off of a pause. That's probably the thing that I would be most concerned about.
Yeah.
If they're able to get past Minnesota, I understand winning a home game is usually easier, but 2 games in 3 days when most of your team has been had some sort of effect from COVID-19. I believe Underwood said that some players were very mild symptoms while others got hit a little harder with it. That could be the biggest issue, is playing 2 games in 3 days. That'll be interesting to see how they manage that from a coaching perspective.
Yeah, it's worrisome. It's definitely worrisome. You just don't know how much conditioning they were able to do or how their bodies are going to hold up. So that's a good point, that maybe we should be more worried about Maryland on Thursday than Minnesota on Tuesday. But
right,
I think if you go 1-1 in these, you're probably feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I would agree. I think both are certainly winnable. I think Illinois is the better team in both of these games, but as you said, yes, I think 1-1 would be a respectable outcome, especially coming off of the pause that they are. So that is the matchups coming up this week for Illinois basketball. As I mentioned, we're going to hope to do reaction pods after these games, potentially both of them. We'll just kind of see how they go. But you can look forward to that. Elsewhere, college basketball, there's a game tonight as we're recording this. Purdue hosts Wisconsin on the Big Ten Network. That'll be a fun one. And then the rest of the week, Kentucky goes to LSU. That one is on Tuesday night. On Wednesday, Alabama at Florida, Creighton at Villanova, Texas Tech at Iowa State. Another big one in the Big Ten, although Indiana, I'm not really sure about Indiana.
Yeah, they lost to Penn State last night.
Yeah, they haven't looked great. But Ohio State goes to Indiana on Thursday, Iowa to Wisconsin on Thursday, and then on the Saturday, I believe,
huge day.
Yeah, huge day on Saturday. Michigan State goes to Michigan. That was going to be very much a marquee matchup. Michigan has not looked the part this year.
Yeah, it's Fox's
I would have guessed,
first college game on Fox.
So that'll be an interesting one. 2:30 on Fox on Saturday. Kansas goes to Texas Tech. Tennessee goes to LSU, and Florida goes to Auburn. Those are all games around the country on Saturday. So big week of basketball. Illinois just has the 2 this week. I don't believe they have anything this week after Thursday, correct? They do not.
Thursday and then Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday, Thursday is what's going on for Illinois basketball the coming weeks. Before we move on, anything else in the world of college hoops you want to talk about? Anything else we need to dissect?
Nope. Let's would love
this
to have rolling.
More to report on, but we've Illinois basketball hasn't played for a week and a half, or 2 weeks, so we don't really know much. NBA, how about your Bulls? Have you got your jersey yet?
Man, are you going to ask me every week?
Yes.
No.
Until you get it.
No, I'm not.
DeMar DeRozan.
What a week.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
And both of them, I mean, there's probably a 5% chance he makes both of those shots, and he just drilled both of them. If you haven't seen DeMar DeRozan's 2 buzzer beaters on, it was New Year's Eve and then yesterday, the 2nd, right? Or was it back-to-back days? It might have been back-to-back days. It might have been the 31st.
I feel like there was
a
day between.
Maybe.
Either way.
I don't know. Back-to-back games, at least. Holy cow. At Indiana, at the Pacers, and then at the Wizards. Just back-to-back threes to win the game. Absolutely incredible. I've first player to ever do it. I've never seen anything. Well, no one has ever seen anything like it.
No. But that was fun. The Bulls have been fun to watch. I've been catching more and more of their games as the season progresses. Be interesting to see what they do at the trade deadline.
Yeah.
I think I know that they're at the top of the conference and
number 1 seed right now.
Think they can hold on to that mostly, but I think they could use a piece.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know what that piece is.
Maybe a big.
Yeah, it may not hurt. They're playing fairly small.
Yeah,
most of the time. So I'll just see what happens there. But they have been fun to watch.
I was very upset because I saw 3 of my friends posting pictures from Indianapolis on Friday.
Yeah.
And I was like, why did I not drive up?
Why didn't you drive up?
I didn't realize it. I had looked at the schedule.
Here you are complaining all the time about not being able to watch Bulls games.
Yep. I had looked at the schedule months ago.
Less than 2 hours from your house.
And I saw it was a Friday night, and Christy works Saturday mornings early. So she has to go to bed early Friday nights. So I'm like, all right, Friday night games we can't go to. And then she left to go with her family, and I didn't even think to look. and I was very mad at myself for not going to that game.
If only you knew somebody that was like, a few hours the other way that could like meet you in Indianapolis to go to a game with you.
My first NBA game, my first NBA game was in Indianapolis. Kobe Bryant's last season. He announced his retirement 5 seconds after he announced it. I looked up tickets to see when he was playing in Chicago. They were like $85 a ticket. I looked up tickets to see when he was playing in Indianapolis, $20 a seat. So I got 2 of them real quick.
Wow.
The next day I looked, the cheapest were like 150. So I beat the rush. I went with our boy Jim Johnston. He was working in Indianapolis.
Yep.
So
Jim Johnston.
hit it up.
That's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, next time, just let me know. We'll go and we'll leave early because we have a tendency to do that.
No, never. We did not do that.
I don't know what you're talking about, Logan. No. All right, NFL. We don't talk about NFL much on the show, but the season is winding down. There have been some surprises. The Bengals, Jamar Chase absolutely saved my fantasy football season. Granted, I should be in the championship game, but whatever. I'll take 3rd place.
Bengals are my second team.
Yeah, I know. You have jerseys and everything else. Go Joe Burrow. Is he going to lead them to a Super Bowl? Not this year. I'm not predicting it this year.
It's tough to do. I'll say yeah. I think they'll win one. And they'll get to one. I don't want to predict if they'll win one, but they'll get to one. Okay. They'll win the AFC.
Well, the NFL schedule is winding down. The playoff picture is coming into play, coming into focus, I guess you could say. We have one. Is this the last week? This coming week? Is this week 18?
Yep.
So yeah, do we need to go over the standings? Do you have any predictions you want to make?
No.
Almost everybody's clinched, right?
There's the only one
much left.
The Chargers Raiders game, the winner gets in. That's the Sunday night game this week.
Yeah.
I think there's one NFC spot still up for grabs. Saints,
Bills and Patriots are in. Bengals are in. Titans are in. Chiefs are in. So there's still one spot in the AFC.
NFC has one, and it's either the Saints or the Niners.
Eagles are in. Yes. Yep. Cowboys, Eagles, Packers, Bucks, Rams, and Cardinals are all in. So there's still one more spot open in both leagues. So that will get determined this week. Antonio Brown, dude has some issues. Let's just get that out of the way now. Dude has some issues. Don't know what was going on. He's claiming that he had some sort of injury, which is why he wasn't going in the game when Arians was telling him to go into the game. But he just decided to take off his jersey and his pads on the sideline very awkwardly because it's very difficult to do that, especially when you're standing there on the sidelines. And then he just walked off the field in the middle of the game. Whatever. Antonio Brown at one point was the best receiver in football, and he's more of a problem than he's worth at this point. So that was a moment on Sunday. Couple other sad notes from the NFL, from football, the world of football. Couple people that passed this past week. The big one, John Madden, who he's an interesting person because to one generation he's known as a great football coach. To another generation, he's known as a great football broadcaster. And to another generation, he's known as the guy that has his names on the cover of the most popular video game in the world of sports. So, when you think of John Madden, who is he to you? Is he the guy from the video game, or do you think of him more as a broadcaster? Obviously the coaching was before our time, but
I think it's a combination. I think we're right on the edge.
Do you think of his voice in the video game? Because that's, I think, what I think of. Oh, I think of him and Pat
not really
in the game. The first few years of playing Madden when I first got into it in the early 2000s. That's kind of what I think about.
No, I think of his voice. I think of his
Little Giants. Do you think of his cameo in Little Giants?
He's in Little Giants. I'm gonna have to rewatch. I don't know him in Little Giants.
He shows up with several NFL players and they do like some little camp thing.
Oh, okay.
with
Yeah,
the
yeah,
kids.
yeah. No, I think of his voice, and the boom,
Yep.
the boom catchphrase, and calling games. But I also like I'm always gonna think of Madden video game. I've had every one since Sean Alexander was on the cover, maybe before. I think since 2000. That wasn't Sean Alexander. He was like 06. One of my
Eddie George.
Eddie George 2000.
He was one of those.
Was Vic 01?
Yeah.
Yeah. One of
Marshall Falk was in there too.
Like I think Sporkle. I don't know if our listeners know
familiar
Sporkle.
with Sporkle.
I think if I do a Sporkle Madden cover athlete quiz, I think I could get them all in like 2 minutes. And maybe in order.
That image of all the games has been circulating around.
I posted it once and Logan called me out.
What did I call you out? What did I say?
I misspelled something. So I deleted it and I never went back and reshared it.
Yeah. Yeah, you did misspell something. I've been looking for the image. I can't find it, but yeah. I think the Michael Vick
that was the best one.
And the Dante Culpepper cover were the first two that I really remember playing much of. We might have had a year before that, but those were the ones that I really got into it. I haven't played Madden that much the last several years.
Yeah, I get it every year. That and the show.
But I definitely played a lot of it as a kid. So that's what I mean. A lot of what I think of John Madden.
Barry Sanders was the first. Barry Sanders was the first
non-Madden person to be on the cover. Yeah.
Then it was Eddie George. I'm doing the Sporkle right now as we speak.
After that was Vic. And then Marshall Falk was after that.
Nope. Sanders, George, Culpepper, Falk, Vic.
Oh, okay. I got the order mixed up then. Okay. Culpepper, Falk, Vic. This is you doing this. I don't know why I even care. I'm just trying to think of it now because I was just looking at this not that long ago. Sean Alexander, or was there one in between there?
Sean Alexander was 07. Yeah,
okay.
You're missing 2.
This is great content.
I know.
That should just be the name of our show. Great. This is great content. Let's forego this because
go for it.
We should probably wrap this show down.
I'm still listening.
Whatever. But yes, John Madden passed this past week. He wasn't the only former football coach. Stan Reeves passed as well. Legendary football coach. So sad day in the NFL, sad week in the NFL, losing a couple legends there. Also, let's just, hit it where it's at. BettyWhite.
Man.
I believe it was we talk about our tweets a lot on this show. But you had a pretty good one. You made a comment about her being the one thing that really united people.
Yeah.
I think everybody, we are such a divided world anymore, but she was really one of the main things that kept people kind of united on some things. Everybody was just pro BettyWhite. To our generation, we probably don't really know her for much other than Golden Girls and making various cameos and things. But she's such an icon, was so close to her 100th birthday. There had been all these articles and cover stories and stuff about her turning 100 just this past week, and then she unfortunately passed on New Year's Eve, I believe. Sometime just within the past few days.
I think so.
Definitely a sad moment there in the world of entertainment. Whew.
I mean,
R.I.P.
After she passed, clips of Golden Girls started coming out.
Yeah.
It still holds up, man.
Yeah,
it does. Still so funny.
Yeah, it is.
It's incredible.
It is.
Yeah.
It was never a show that I frequented, but when I do go back and watch clips and stuff, it is really funny. It's a really funny show. So yeah, sad day, sad week with that passing. That's a name that every time she popped up on Twitter the last several years, I always just thought the inevitable. Like, this is it. This is the moment. And it never was. It never happened. Because she would just start kind of going viral every once in a while. Her name would just start circulating on Twitter or Facebook, and people would think, oh, is this the moment? Nope, never was. Oh, would you like to report on your Sporkle?
I got 22 out of 26.
Who are we missing?
2008 Titans.
Vince Young.
Yep. 2014 Vikings. He was one of two. There were two on the cover that year. The other was Barry Sanders. It was the 25. It was Madden 25.
25th Vikings anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
Randy Moss?
Nope.
Adrian Peterson?
Yeah, Peterson.
I don't even remember that cover.
And then I missed 14, 15, and 16. 15 Seahawks.
Richard Sherman?
Yep. And 16 Giants.
16 Giants. Who was their running back?
I don't know.
Remember.
OBJ.
So you still don't have. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, interesting. All right. Well, that's
sorry to
great.
Derail our BettyWhite conversation.
I'm happy for you. Anything else that you want to touch on? Anything in
I don't think
your
so.
world that we haven't talked about?
I mean, there probably is, but
I did. The only movie I was able to get to this past week was Don't Look Up. The Adam McKay directed movie with the loaded cast: Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, Jonah Hill, Meryl Streep, Kate Blanchett. Loaded cast. It's a comedy satire, essentially commentating on our country and our society and how we handle things. He uses a comet coming to destroy Earth as a metaphor for global warming, and how our politicians and our media and our, how our world handles these situations. It's getting a lot of praise. I wasn't in love with the movie. I thought it was a little too commentating-y. I thought he had a little too much to say at times, and it was a little jumbled. But I mean, it was funny. Don't get me wrong. It's a loaded cast, as I mentioned. It was well written, but I think that they were trying to do a little too much with it. But that was kind of my take on that movie.
Does it get a score or no?
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask me and I wasn't prepared for it. So, yeah, it'll have a score. What's its score, Logan? I don't know. Let's find out. Its score is,
it's nice wrapping paper you got back
find
there
it.
too.
What is it? Is it Buddy the Elf that you can see? Or do you see the Grinch? Don't Look Up scored an 87.5. Or nope, sorry, 78.5. 78.5 on the Loki scale for Don't Look Up. So,
okay.
All right.
One thing that just popped up 23 minutes ago. Ken Rosenthal dumped from MLB Network over past criticism of Rob Manfred.
Seriously?
It's from Bleacher Nation.
Wow. I didn't know that. I missed that. Clearly, we were doing a show. All right. That's interesting. I guess he'll still be doing his Fox stuff, but
Rob Manfred sucks, dude.
Yeah, well, that's the conversation for another day.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, Craig?
No.
We've been on here for a while.
We've been on the call for 2 hours. I think this is going to be like an hour and 45 episodes. So.
I think we started at about
25-minute mark.
I think about an hour and a half.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I think we're about 30 minutes in when we finally started. All right.
Yep, you're right.
I think that's going to do it for us.
Yep.
This has been episode whatever.
48.
Episode 48 of No One Asked Us. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at No One Asked Us Pod, at Craig W. Choate, at the Logan Lee. Like, subscribe, comment, share with all your friends. Let us know what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. Send us your comments. Let us know if you like what we're doing, because Craig loves to hear these things. We are planning to do an Illinois basketball reaction pod after the game on Tuesday night. Don't hold us to that. If it doesn't happen, don't come yelling for us, but we're going to try to do it and try to do that more regularly as we get into conference play. So that will be coming up Tuesday night to drop on Wednesday. I think that's going to do it. For Craig, I'm Logan. Have a great night. We'll see you guys in a couple days. Bye.